Now help me welcome John Passalacqua, President and CEO of First Phosphate Corp, for a fireside chat with Gary Baschuk, co-head of Mining and Senior Geologist at Peartree, Canada. First Phosphate is a company engaged in the exploration and development of phosphate projects, aiming to supply the growing demand for lithium iron phosphate batteries.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So John, I mean, you've got from First Phosphate, we've got, I guess we hear so much about the batteries and cobalt, nickel, lithium iron, graphite needed for it. So how does phosphate fit in this whole picture as part of the EV revolution?
Yeah, so thank you, Gary. Phosphate, it sits under the family of lithium-ion batteries. So lithium-ion batteries, just to keep it short and simple, are batteries that use lithium. So there was many different types of lithium-ion batteries, but it seems down to about two technologies that are the forerunners. So you have the traditional nickel, manganese, cobalt in the cathode, together with lithium, and then you have lithium iron phosphate. So the difference between lithium iron phosphate and nickel, manganese, cobalt is less elements. So you've got iron, you've got phosphate and lithium, whereas in the other one you've got nickel, manganese, cobalt, and lithium. So it's a little bit more complex, the chemistry and the need for input items or input materials to make the battery. So lithium iron phosphate is a slower, more easy breezy way to electrify, and it's becoming the battery of mass adoption, where we need to get vehicle prices very low, but not just in vehicles, even in large-scale energy storage. Whereas nickel, manganese, cobalt has a little bit longer range, and it's preferred in the higher-priced electric vehicles. So there's room for both, and they're like complementary, but you're really going to see a big push in LFP, and it's now 70% of battery output in China, and that's coming over here like a tidal wave, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. So that's where we're positioned as First Phosphate, is to make that transition happen here in Quebec with very pure igneous phosphate rock that produces a lot of this purified phosphoric acid, which is the precursor to make LFP cathode active material. And proud to say, product of Quebec, it's not maple syrup, it's not poutine, but c'est de l'acide phosphorique purifié, made in Quebec. So I hope everyone's proud of this. This is from our Bégin-la-Marche property in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. And this is the precursor. This, together with lithium hydroxide, lithium carbonate, and a source of iron, would make LFP cathode active material that would then go into battery cells to make electric vehicles or large-scale energy storage systems.
Right. So right now, where's the world's supply of phosphorus coming from for the LPFs?
Yeah, so phosphate is a very interesting, tricky commodity. It's considered an industrial mineral. We have to remember it's voluminous. There's a lot of volume to phosphate. It's almost like gravel. And that's why it can make cheaper batteries, because it's in a sense plentiful. There is a lot of phosphate in the world. There's a lot of potential areas where you can find phosphate, but the problem is a lot of the phosphate is found in marshy, swampy areas. A lot of it's found in seas and oceans, and a lot of it's found far from infrastructure. So when I was saying the word voluminous, it's important because we know there's carbon footprint, there's transportation costs, so it's important that where you have the phosphate, it be very close to infrastructure. And then there's two types of phosphate. There's sedimentary phosphate, which is 95% of the world's phosphate, and that is very good for making fertilizer-grade phosphoric acid, also known as merchant-grade phosphoric acid. But it doesn't make a large quantity of this battery-grade purified phosphoric acid. We have something very precious here in Quebec, and it's igneous rock, igneous anorthosite rock, which holds phosphate, which is very pure. It's very low in contaminants, if not almost none, and we can make a lot of purified phosphoric acid. So for instance, once we achieve this feedstock, which is apatite, it's phosphate and calcium together, and we hit this with purified sulfuric acid, we get almost 95% of it converted into PPA, purified phosphoric acid, for battery. And and a very small waste stream which can go into fertilizers. Whereas when you're sitting in sedimentary rock, sometimes it's 10, 20, 30% that can be converted into purified phosphoric acid. So we can be making just the purest purified phosphoric acid for batteries with this igneous rock here in Quebec. So there is phosphate, but there's different grades of phosphate, and there is high purity, and high purity is extremely rare, and we have it here in Quebec, and that's what we're aiming for, strictly for the LFP battery industry, 100% focused on technology and not at all involved in fertilizers, as was traditionally the use for phosphate.
And byproduct from this would be a calcium sulfate, so gypsum, which could be used for other products as well.
Yeah, what's really interesting is, at the mine, we concentrate this. We strip out magnetite, we strip out ilmenite, we end up with an apatite. And so it's basically calcium and phosphate. So you need to break the bond, because in nature, phosphate does not usually exist on its own. So you have to break that bond. So you hit it with sulfuric acid. What happens is the phosphate is removed, and it becomes liquid together with water. And this is pure phosphate, if you will, to keep it really simple. But then what happens with the calcium and the sulfate, the calcium from the apatite and the sulfate from the sulfuric acid, they bind and they create a gypsum. Now, as you know, gypsum is used in the construction industry. It's used for wall boards. Yeah. It's used for plaster. We recently signed a contract with Rapid Wall. It's a company out of Australia where they can take high purity gypsum, and they've certified our gypsum as being some of the highest purity. I mean, we have this certified as the highest purity apatite perhaps in the world to make very high purity PPA, but also the byproduct that we're talking about, which is the gypsum, it is high purity as well. So we can craft that into panels that can be used to make modular housing. But this is not true of all phosphates. The 95% of phosphates in the sedimentary world, they contain contaminants such as cadmium, uranium, and thorium, and they become a big problem. These slag piles are a big problem in the southeast United States, for instance. We won't have that problem because of the low contaminants. The gypsum is 100% recyclable. And I don't know if anyone's been following our press, but with Rapid Wall, what we're able to do, one purified phosphoric acid plant that would make 100,000 tons of this purified phosphoric acid would also produce enough gypsum to make 25,000 homes per year, 3-bedroom homes, which are modular and can be shipped to northern parts of Quebec, indigenous communities. They're anti-fire, and they're also very easy to assemble in a few days. So we're very proud of that sort of circular economy aspect and helping out the housing crisis that we're also having in this country.
All right. Now, your project's up in the Saguenay, Lake Saint Jean area. How's the community been on this? What's the infrastructure like?
Yeah, so I mean, the community is wonderful. It's a great area. It's very francophone. It reminds me a lot of the books I used to read about Nouvelle France. It's very, very traditional. There's also a great number of indigenous communities, mostly the Innu in the area. And to me, I mean, as an outsider coming in, I almost see like a perfect integration between the community there and everybody working really hard together. I find it's a very industrial area. People are very hardworking. They're very funny. We joke around a lot, okay? And also I find that they're very receptive. We've had such a strong reception out there. We signed an agreement with CEMAX, Comité de Maximisation des Retombées Industrielles, which is a regional committee for the maximization of industrial projects. So we're given industrial project status, major project status by this group. They're also helping us with local suppliers of different services that we might need. We're very well integrated. We go out to see the municipalities. We're invited out to the regional councils. We speak with the mayors. We started consulting very early in the process, even before we started drilling. And that's helped a lot. We have a partnership, full collaboration agreement with our local indigenous community of Mastoyash, and it goes beyond IRA, it goes beyond consulting, it's partnership. It's people shaking hands, people getting something done. Yeah. We are literally trying to work with all the partners in the area for the betterment of the area.
Yeah, I think that's so important, is to actually be partners in the community with that. I mean, for infrastructure-wise, is there ports available now? I'm guessing you would just ship things down the Saguenay River and out from there? Or?
So we have something that's extremely important and it's overlooked. and very few people know this. As you know, the Saguenay is known as the aluminum battery valley. That's where Alcan used to be. It was purchased by Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto is still there. I don't know if you knew, but during the Second World War, 85% of the aluminum going into the fighter jets for the Allies' the defense of in Europe was coming from Saguenay. So there is still the logistics in place from Saguenay for the aluminum that now goes directly down to Detroit, Windsor, right to the heart of automobile territory. That's all there. It's train. It's infrastructure. Rio Tinto's infrastructure is not just for themselves, but it means there's just tens of thousands of qualified workers in there, people who know industry, and there's a whole subset of sub-suppliers that have had to work, building things for Rio Tinto, building things for the industry, very strong forestry industry there. So what does it mean is we've got a very skilled workforce, but also I would say like a very entrepreneurial workforce, which is almost the most important thing that helps us to solve problems that we might have.
Yeah. Well, it sounds good. Can you tell us a bit more about the history of the deposit itself? What's the exploration potential for expansion, the size of it, and grades, etc.?
Yeah, so we have one PEA out on our first property, Lac L'Orignal. It's about 140 kilometers from the deep sea port of Saguenay. There's a PEA on that one. The PEA measures about 800 million NPV, 23% IRR, which is very good in the industrial minerals world. In the meantime, we've also started drilling on Bégin-La-Marche, which is about 70 kilometers from the deep sea port. We just put 25,000 meters of drilling into that property starting in January of this year. We finished it in 3 months thanks to our excellent geologists. And again, that gets back to what you were saying about the area. I mean, people can literally live at home and go over to the drill site and come back home at night because we're that close. So that made such that our drilling program was done in 3 months, 25,000 meters. We have found exceptional grades of phosphate. We have found phosphates, highest grades that have ever been found in the whole Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean area, and grades of phosphate that are equivalent to, and higher in some cases, than those grades which are associated with 3 of the current igneous mines in the world. Like I was saying before, most of the phosphate mined in the world is sedimentary deposit. It goes into fertilizer, but there are 3 mines, pretty much. One in Finland, it's got about 4% grade, carbonatite, and then there's 2 in Russia that are massive, and they actually compete with Morocco, and they're at 10% grade. We have found grades in our northern portion of Bégin-La-Marche, 10 to 12, found some massive apatite, not found anywhere in the world. You can see it tonight if anybody comes out to the core shack. Like, it's just white powder in there, 30, 35% phosphate. Small veins, of course, but the larger veins, it's a very interesting deposit. Again, we have to go through our mineral resource estimate and our PEA. We're accelerating that. It's in the process right now, so by the end of the year, this will, we'll see, I think, the true marvel of the Bégin-La-Marche deposit.
Great. And you're being supported by EXIM Bank in the U.S. How's that relationship, and how is that really supporting you?
Yeah, so the EXIM Bank of the U.S. is similar to is it the BDC in Canada?
Yeah.
So it is meant to be there to support exporters from the U.S. manufacturers to export their products into the world. Every country seems to have one of these so they can support their exporters. So the EXIM Bank has given us a line of credit. It starts at 170 million US just to get a foot in the door, but they're very interested in the whole process in all of our plants, whether it be the mine and the concentrator, the purified phosphoric acid plant, and then eventually the LFP CAM plant. And this is something that you touched on earlier, and I really want this to be understood, is when we look at the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean area of Quebec, like I was saying, there's a strategic valley there of aluminum, and it was very important, and it was built up during the Second World War, and it went quick. And it went quick, and it's one of the most wonderful forms of cooperation between Quebec, Canada, and the USA. I don't think there's any better form of cooperation that you could look out there in the history books. And we're talking about that again, aren't we, right? And so there's a base there. It's base Bagotville. It's a NATO base, and it was there for a reason. Now it's kind of like, okay, training center, whatever, but in the early days, it was there during the Second World War to protect the Battery Valley. Why? there was submarines that would come up and they'd fire torpedoes at Alma because obviously the aluminum that was going into making the fighter jets that were dropping the bombs was coming from Saguenay. So it's a very strategic part of North America. We're talking integrated North American supply chains. We're talking, we got a NATO base there. We're talking, we have integrated logistics, supply chains that feed right down into New York, right into the heart of America. So it's very, I guess, strategic to have this XM funding, and XM, I assume, sees it strategic for that reason as well. And so, you know, we're very proud to build Saguenay 2.0 with the same sort of openness and collaboration between the 3 levels of government. 4 with the Indigenous group now.
Yeah, that went fast. I had one more question. Where do you expect to be in a year from now?
On this planet?
What's the next steps?
Well, we're a public company, so I have to be tempered in what I say, but we're just loving it. And I just want to say thank you to my team that's out there. They're just killing it. And we're just having a lot of fun, and we just seem to go in the direction that destiny wants to take us. But I know you're looking for a more concrete answer. You know, we're advancing the project very fast. I hope to be at some point into a feasibility study, and also working on some of our downstream operations, actually into making the LFP cathode active material that's signaled out there. So that's what I can say now, but I hope to go faster.
Great. Well, thank you very much, John. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.